Hello, everyone. Happy Good Friday. This is the day that Jesus Christ died on the cross. This is April 10th, 2020, and today's coronavirus update has a theme entitled, Why is the COVID-19 death rate so low in Asia? As you follow along in our program, you will see why that is today's theme. My name is Heerak Christian Kim. I'm an independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. And I am here to help you survive COVID-19. We don't know how long it's going to last. And now experts are saying that it's not seasonal, something that I've been saying all along. If you go back to a few episodes ago, I actually disagree with Dr. Fauci. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and keep up with coronavirus update. There will be a lot of helpful information that will help you survive coronavirus. Today, we have fourth day of about 2,000 U.S. citizens dying from COVID-19. So yesterday, there were around 2,000 people who died. Day before that, there was about 2,000 people who died. Day before that, there was about 2,000 people who died. So in last 4 days, there has been 8,000 people who have died from COVID-19. So when Attorney General, actually Surgeon General, said on Sunday during Meet the Press show that this week was going to be Pearl Harbor, he was not joking. 2,000 people dying every day for 4 days. You could say the Holy Week was filled with 2,000 deaths per day. Kind of forces you to participate in the suffering of Jesus Christ during the Passion Week. So let's look at the specific figures. On April 9th, there were 16,672 total deaths in the United States. In 24-hour period, 1,965 souls have died and either gone to heaven or hell regarding on their status vis-a-vis Jesus. And now, today, Good Friday, April 10, 2020, we have 18,637 total deaths in the United States of America. Yesterday's confirmed cases were at 465,329, and it went about a little bit over 30,000, and today we are at 500,399. Now over 500,000 Americans have confirmed cases of COVID-19. Now look at top COVID-19 cases in Asia. Do you remember like 1 month ago, literally like 1 month ago, watching TV and saying, oh my gosh, those poor Chinese suffering from COVID. Now, as we look at our figures in the United States and compare it to China, how do you feel? That was only 1 month ago. 1 month ago. We did not have a COVID-19 crisis. Most Americans were not thinking about it. Yes, we were shutting America off from China to protect us. And we were trying to shut off Europe from us because we were trying to protect us. But we were thinking China's the problem, Europe's the problem. Now America has become #1 hotspot in COVID-19. What a difference 1 month makes. But more troubling than that is the statistics that you see side by side. United States has confirmed cases as of April 10th, 2020, Good Friday, of 500,399 people with confirmed cases, out of which there are 18,637 deaths. United States of America is a country with about 330 million people. Compare that to China. China has over 1 billion people. China is more than 3 times the size of United States of America. And look at the total number of COVID-19 cases in China, 82,971. That's like today and yesterday and a little bit of day before that in the US, because in the US we are rising at about 30 to 35,000 cases per day, right? So in 2 days you have like 60 or 70,000 cases. So the total case in China since November to now, it's only 82,971, which is smaller than the number of cases we have in America in last 3 days. That puts it in perspective, don't you think? And look at the total number of deaths. Since November to April 10, 2020, China has 3,340 deaths. That's less than the 2-day tally for United States. Yesterday and today, we have around 4,000 deaths. In 2 days, we have more deaths than in China from the beginning of the COVID-19 virus, and it's spreading throughout China to today. We have been suffering with this only for a little bit over a month, like maybe two months if we locate the very first case. And it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon in the United States of America. You think China's numbers are small? Let's go down the list. These are the top 5 COVID-19 cases in Asia. South Korea has total of 10,450 cases, out of which only 280 people have died. The whole time. South Korea's COVID-19 crisis started before America's. And South Korea is #2 in Asia in terms of numbers of cases. Let's go to India, another country with 1 billion people, more than 1 billion people. And their total cases are at 7,600. And their total deaths are at 249. Now, look back and compare it to United States of America, country that has 330 million people, compared to India's over 1.2 billion people. Do you see the difference here? And India doesn't even have a lot of doctors everywhere. They don't even have hospitals in some cities, some areas. America has the best hospitals in the world, literally. Everybody recognizes that. And in America, 2,000 people are dying every day. Why is that the case? Some people say it's all the drugs that people are taking. That has impacted American immune system to the extent that they can't handle this virus. Because in Asia, there's like death penalty for drugs. If you're caught with drugs, you get the death penalty in many countries. Excuse me. Seasonal allergies. It's nearing May, and it's going to get bad in May. Hopefully, Poland does not carry COVID-19 virus. You know, can you imagine how much faster it will spread if Poland carries COVID-19 in there? Now let's go back to our chart. In Japan, there are 5,530 cases, 99 deaths. They haven't even hit 100. Pakistan is at 4,695, 66 deaths. Compare top 6 in Asia with top 6 in Europe. Look at yesterday's episode, or day before that, episode before yesterday. Why is this happening? You could ask this question from a physical angle, or a spiritual angle, cultural angle. What kind of things do Europeans and Americans do socially or culturally that Asians do not do? Because as you know, health is a combination of two things. One is what you're born with and what you do to your body. So you can be genetically superior, born with the best genes in the world, but if you're doing marijuana, you're getting drunk every weekend, your body system takes a toll and your body becomes weaker even though you might have been born with superior genes. Drugs and alcohol can damage your body, damage your liver, damage every cell. Maybe that's an explanation. So maybe it's biological. Health experts say being obese, being fat, makes you more vulnerable. Maybe there are more obese individuals in Europe and America compared to Asia. You know, you go to India or China, people don't have any fat. I mean, you know, I was shocked. I sometimes teach in India. As you know, I'm an expert of Jewish studies. I've talked a little bit about that in previous episodes. So I go to India and I teach in India. And I'm always shocked at how thin people are. Because, you know, in America, we are considered the most overweight country in the world. On average, people are overweight. Some people say over 60% of Americans are overweight. Maybe that's the reason why we have such a high death rate. In Europe, there are some overweight people, but they tend to be thinner. But they're not as thin as in Asia. Part of that is because Asia is poor and they just don't have food, so they don't get to eat. So they're thin, not by choice, but by necessity. They just don't have food. They're poor. It's the third world. But maybe this is a situation where being poor and underfed and being thin is a strength, right? You know, evolution talks about adaptation, right? Survival of the fittest. In certain conditions, it's better to be fat to survive, but in certain conditions, it's better to be thin to survive. And maybe, I'm just raising this question, maybe in the case of COVID-19, you survive better as a thin person. Food for thought. Maybe you could ask Dr. Fauci about this. I figure because of such a stark contrast between COVID-19 cases and deaths, we're talking about a couple dozen in some countries, right? Even among the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 list, we have like 66 people dying in Pakistan, right? I mean, compare that to Europe, you know, you have over 500 people dying in Italy, Spain, United Kingdom, and France. And they said Belgium is headed there. And so I thought maybe you may be interested to learn a little bit about Asia. We say East versus West, right? cultures are almost opposites. So today I'm just going to kind of think about the concept of China in Asia. China has been described as the Middle Kingdom. And for thousands of years, China has been the Middle Kingdom, meaning it is the center of the universe. When I was at the University of Pennsylvania as a history major, my faculty advisor was Hillary Conroy, who was an expert of Japan and China. And he said, this is a significant information. When China decided to open up to the world, China did not come to America, which was the greatest superpower. But China made President Nixon come to China because they had this pride that China is the Middle Kingdom. And so President Nixon went over to China. And that's how relationship between China and United States started. And if you see the photograph, they say picture tells 1,000 words. If you see the picture of President Nixon eating with his Chinese counterpart, what can you say about that photo? You see how the Chinese person looks calm, collected, doesn't have a worry in the world. Can you say that that's the same with President Nixon? Just by looking at the photo. Because you can tell a lot from nonverbal communication, right? Here, by the body language that President Nixon is showing, we can understand a lot about what is going through his thoughts. Does he feel confident? Does he look confident? He looks a little bit apprehensive, doesn't he? Like someone who's a little bit afraid of what the Chinese leader will think of him. Now contrast that to President Nixon in the picture below. That is a face of confidence, right? President Nixon was very confident. So obviously, it's not normal characteristic of President Nixon to be a little bit shy or apprehensive. His normal characteristic, as Americans know him, is exuding with confidence, like the photo below the chopstick photo. President Trump has taken a different tactic, as we have seen on TV. Unlike President Nixon, who kind of tried to ingratiate himself to China, President Trump, ever since he was elected to be president, slapped China around a bit with tariffs and calling COVID-19 a Chinese virus and getting them all huffy and upset. What I call the story of two confident men. One stooped in order to get a deal with China. That's President Nixon. The other one, President Trump, took a more Machiavellian approach and used a strong arm and strong fist in his approach to China. That's just interesting to see. Obviously, we know that presidential candidate, Vice President Joe Biden, is more of an ingratiating kind of sort, trying to be nice to China. So he's probably more like Nixon than Trump is, even though they're from different parties, Joe Biden and President Nixon. Now, let's go to the Democrats, since we're talking about Joe Biden. And if we go across the board to the other side, we see President Clinton and the Chinese leader. Now, what does that photo tell you? Now, body language can communicate sometimes more loudly than words, verbal communication. And we see from the photo who is the confident one and who is not the confident one there on the photo. Just like with Nixon, The Chinese leader looks confident. They're two different people. He looks confident. And President Clinton is trying to ingratiate himself. And look at him. He's standing literally behind the Chinese leader. He's not standing next to him. He's standing behind him and trying to squeeze himself into that photo. And look at his wave. And let's look at the photo below that. Now, President Obama has a smile which is winsome. A lot of people say that that's one of his political weapons, his smile. And he has that smile there. But even there, let's look at the photo. Who is the confident one and who is the one who's trying to ingratiate himself to the other, in your opinion? Now, President of China is just standing there with his one hand by his side, just stretching out his one hand. And he's not even looking at the camera, right? He's just kind of looking in a skewed direction. But look at President Obama, so eager to please, so eager to look like he's a friend of the Chinese leader. He's not only shaking his hand, he's holding onto Chinese leader's arm like he's the best buddy in the world. And he's trying to smile and say, oh, look, I'm taking a photo with the Chinese leader. Look at me, look at me. Who is the alpha male in that photo? Just looking at the photo. It's the Chinese leader who's, I don't care, approach, not President Obama. Oh, I want to be in the photo smiling with this president. So we see that in the case of President Nixon, President Clinton, and President Obama, all of them are beta males. They're not alpha males. The alpha males are the Chinese leaders, at least in these photos. And anyone who studied the political science and the history would argue that it's not just the photo. The photo speaks 1,000 words and is a picture into the world in which a relationship between China and America were ordered. Chinese leaders playing the alpha males and American presidents playing the beta males. And that changed with President Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. And I'm glad I did. I'm planning to vote for him again in 2020. And one of the reasons why I voted for him was because he fought for freedom of speech. He said, you know, if you're a white supremacist, fine. You have the right to be a white supremacist under, you know, the First Amendment. And he did not try to make people who may not think like him, white supremacists, feel like they're not welcome in America. And I looked at that and I said, you know, I'm an Asian man, as you can see. I've suffered discrimination, institutional discrimination, individual discrimination. I've experienced racism, people calling me chink ever since I landed in America, and other people saying a lot of other things. So it's not like I have not been a victim of racism, both on personal levels, social levels, and institutional levels. But America is a place where we have First Amendment rights. People have the right to believe what they want. If white Americans want to join the KKK or Aryan Nation or believe that white people are the superior race, they have that right to believe that. And that's what makes America America, that you can believe whatever you want. You can get together in a group with people who think like you without having to worry about secret police or persecution or being thrown in jail. Same with African Americans. You have the Black nationalist movement and Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam, and you have Black Lives Matter now, which many white people say is racist. It certainly is a Black nationalist movement in the sense that they want Black people to be empowered. But even if it's a black racist movement trying to say black people are more important, they have that right under the First Amendment. This is America. Black people have the right to believe that they're superior to other races in the world. And they could get together with people who believe that way. It doesn't hurt people for black people to get together with other black people who think that black people are the best people in the world, the supreme race. And it doesn't hurt anybody in America for a bunch of white supremacists to get together and have their picnics, flying their Aryan nation flag or whatever flag they fly. Let them enjoy their life. This is a free country. And they don't need to hear all these preaching and lecturing about racism, whether they're black Americans getting together with other black people or white Americans getting together with other white people. And when President Trump was running for office in 2016 and he did not condemn white nationalists, and I thought to myself, this is the kind of president who would defend the First Amendment. Everyone who's talking about evils of racism, these people are judgmental, people with totalitarian streak, like they're better than everyone else. And those are the people who are danger to democracy and First Amendment and the US Constitution. And that's one of the reasons why I voted for President Trump, because I felt that he's the kind of person who can protect the freedom of speech. That is the right, fundamental right of every American. Every American has a right to be a racist, as long as they don't use that to commit crimes. Bunch of racists getting together for a barbecue on July 4th, there's no wrong problem with that. Bunch of racists getting together flying Confederate flag or Nazi flag, what's wrong with that if they do it in the privacy of their own home or in the privacy of their organization? There should be no condemnation of that because America's free. People can get together with people who think like them and enjoy social networks and friendships. That's what makes America more stable. When different people get together with other people who think like them without having to worry about police persecution, police arrest, or some kind of social ostracization because of what they do in their free time. When they're not at work, they can get together with other races. More power to them. This is a free country. Get together with whomever you want in your free time. You're not on anybody's clock. So those people who condemn racism and try to get into the freedom of other people, you should be ashamed of yourself. We don't live in a totalitarian dictatorship. We don't live in China. We don't live in Russia. You should not be going around in other people's homes telling them what to think or what to say, what to believe, who to be friends with, what kind of flag you should fly. That kind of totalitarian impulse makes people mad. Because who wants to become slaves? When you tell people you cannot be a racist, you cannot fly your Confederate flag, you're making them into your slave because they don't agree with you, but you're trying to force them to do what you want because you think you're right and that they're wrong. And you're trying to use laws to force them to obey you. And that's slavery, social slavery, and that's wrong. In America, everybody should be allowed to think what they want, meet with who they want, without people reporting them to the police when they're having a party in their neighborhood, flying a Nazi flag or a Confederate flag. More power to them. Let them enjoy their freedom. They're not at work. Let them not be stressed out. There's no reason for you to stress out other people when they're doing their own thing. Just butt out of their business, do your own thing. Get together with people who think like you. Have barbecue with people who think like you. Don't get into other people's business. It's like people who visit websites that they don't agree with, and then they get all huffy and puffy and try to shut the website down. I'm like, if you do not like that website, just don't visit it. Do your own thing. Don't get into the business of other people. Let other people do what they want. You do what you want. There are so many self-righteous, judgmental, liberal progressives who think that they have the right to be slave masters, social slave masters. It's not even funny. And so when in 2016, President Trump welcomed white Americans who flew Confederate flag, people who belong to KKK, I said, this is the president for America. I can never join the KKK. I'm not white. I'm Asian. But white Americans should have the right to join whatever they want. Aryan Nation, KKK, whatever organization they want. In their free time, they have that right under the First Amendment. Black Americans have the right to meet with whoever they want. The Black Panthers, Black Lives Matter, it's none of your business who they meet. Americans should be free to meet and socialize and have fun with people who think like them. And you should not try to make them into a little you. Who are you? You're not their mother. What right do you have to try to control a bunch of grown-up people in their own free time? You're trying to make America into a police state. Look at what they tried to do with Jesus. Good Friday is about Jesus being arrested by Jewish leaders of Jerusalem temple because Jesus refused to conform to the way Orthodox Jews were believing at that time. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus called himself God. He walked around with his own group of people. But look at the Pharisees and the Sadducees, these Jewish leaders at the time. They just got in Jesus's business. If you read the gospel, you see the Pharisees and Sadducees always trying to get in Jesus's business, trying to report him to Israeli secret police, trying to get Jesus Christ arrested for saying things that offend them. So what if Jesus said things that offended Pharisees and Sadducees and Orthodox Jews? Jesus was with people who wanted to listen to him. If you don't want to listen to Jesus, just don't go to Jesus's meeting, right? I mean, why do you have to go to Jesus's meeting and get in Jesus's face and try to get him arrested? And that's what these Jewish religious leaders at the time of Jesus were doing. They're getting in the face of Jesus, trying to make him do their thing. And when Jesus refused to conform, when Jesus was a non-conformist to Orthodox Jewish positions of these Jewish religious leaders in Jerusalem temple, they plotted to kill him. Just read through the book of Gospel of John. It tells the whole story. So Gospels is about Jesus preaching a message that offended the religious leaders of his time. And those religious leaders practiced totalitarian impulses to shut Jesus Christ up because they were so offended by what Jesus Christ said. All they had to do is not go and listen to Jesus speak. But no, they had to visit him, they had to visit his site, and then they contacted police, they contacted all different kinds of authorities, the court system. We see Pontius Pilate, that's a court system, trying to get Jesus Christ killed off. So Good Friday, it ties back to what we are celebrating today, Good Friday. Good Friday is a story about Jesus Christ who refused to conform to Judaism of his time. Judaism was calling Jesus Christ basically an anti-Semite, and Jesus is very anti-Semitic. If you see the New Testament, I mean, he called Jewish leaders brood of vipers. He cursed at Jewish religious leaders in different ways. Just read through the book of Gospels. So most Jews say gospel is very anti-Semitic because of the things that Jesus Christ said to Jewish religious leaders. They said that's a very anti-Semitic thing to say. And if you read through the Bible, Jesus does attack religious leaders in a very harsh way. So you can see that there may be merits to the claim. But the point is this: Jewish religious leaders did not want to leave Jesus alone. And that's why we have this Good Friday, don't we? Because Jesus Christ was preaching his message to a group of people who came to listen to him. And then Sadducees and Pharisees sent their spies. They tried to entrap Jesus in his words. Gospels actually says this, that they tried to entrap Jesus in his words. So these Jewish leaders were conspiring to trap Jesus, throw him in jail, get him killed, socially minimized. Is that a decent human thing to do? No. Obviously, ancient Israel was not a democracy, but, well, actually, Roman Empire was a democracy. And since um, Palestine was a colony of Rome, they were in a democracy of sorts. But anyway, that's for another time. But let's look at today. Today is Good Friday, and I think this is a good time to think about the First Amendment. And since Jesus is portrayed in the New Testament as someone who attacks Judaism and Jewish religion, and Jews at that time saw him as an anti-Semite, and many people who read the Gospel say Gospels are anti-Semitic, New Testament is anti-Semitic. Maybe this is the right time to talk about this. That white Americans have the right to believe what they want and get together with people that they want. Black Americans have the right to meet with people that they want. People should be given freedom to associate with people who think like them without having to be forced to do things that they don't want. Just creates stress to society, which creates more chaos in society. It makes the society a more harsh place. Social degeneration comes because you're trying to make people into what they're not by saying that you're offended. Everybody gets offended at something, but you're trying to institutionalize a type of totalitarian control system, a type of social slavery by using laws. And that's where the problem is. So when in 2016, President Trump ran and embraced whites who were members of the KKK flying Confederate flag, I said, this is the right president for the United States of America to protect the First Amendment. Unfortunately, right now, there are Republicans who have become more totalitarian, not respecting freedom of others. And obviously, we have that in the Democratic Party as well. And that's a shame because America is going into this direction where they're trying to control people's thoughts, trying to control people's social associations in a way that are damaging to society. And so President Trump became the president, and hopefully he will continue to walk the right road of allowing people to believe what they want, associate with other people who think like them, and that's why he won, right? John McCain lost the race. Mitt Romney lost the race because he condemned racists. Most of Americans like to believe what they want. They have prejudices, biases like everyone else. Everybody has biases of some kind. When you tell them that I respect you and you have the right to have your biases, people like that and they're going to vote for you. And so in a sense, we can say President Trump won because he was willing to allow people to believe what they want and associate with others who believe like them. Now, obviously, this didn't happen in ancient Israel. Jesus was killed by Jewish religious leaders who wanted to persecute him, called the police on him, got him arrested and put him through a trial to have him executed because Jesus's beliefs offended the Jews. And that is the message of Good Friday. Read through the book of Gospels and see if I'm lying. Just read it. It's right there in print. You can read it for yourself. And so this is Heerak Christian Kim trying to make America better, especially during this COVID-19. I think these are issues that we Americans have to think about. What has America become that people who are offended are trying to put you in jail for things you say or things you think? Liberal Democrats have made America into a semi-totalitarian state. And you know what I mean. You know what I mean. And so this COVID-19 time is the right time to talk about this, think about this and turn the country back in the right direction of respecting people, respecting people's right to their own ideas, to associate with people that they want, without trying to control people through social slavery, using laws to criminalize white nationalism or black nationalism. That is just wrong. That is wrong. And I say this as an Asian man who will never be white, who will never be accepted into white supremacy groups. I will fight for you. I will fight for your right to be a white supremacist. I will fight for your right to be a black supremacist. You have the right to be a racist. That's what makes America great. You can believe what you want, think what you want without becoming a slave. This is Heerak Christian Kim running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, which is Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. And I'm here to make your life better. And I'm here to help you think about what it means to live in America, where First Amendment protects your right to freedom of speech, freedom of ideas, freedom of association, freedom to choose which friends you want, freedom to say what you want when you're with your friends in the freedom of your own home, freedom to fly whichever flag you want in the privacy of your home or in the social gathering with like-minded people. More power to you. I hope that this program has helped you to kind of think about some important issues that we as Americans need to think about. And also to learn more about COVID-19, its historical ramifications, its social ramifications. I am here to treat cura personalis, the whole person. I want you to be happy. If you're a white nationalist living in Alexandria, Arlington, Falls Church, Fairfax County, I want you to be happy. If you're a black nationalist living in Alexandria, Arlington, Falls Church, Fairfax County, I want you to be happy. You have the right to be whatever you want. This is a free country. Vote for me in November, on November 3rd, 2020 general election. I'm running as an independent for U.S. Congress. And we need to bring both Democratic Party, Republican Party back to respecting the freedom of American citizens to believe what they want, to associate with what they want, to fly whatever flag they want without having their actions controlled. We're talking about great grown-up people, grown men and women. We're not talking about 6, 7-year-old children. We're talking about grown-up men. You have the right, grown-up women, you have the right to associate with people who think like you and talk like you, walk like you, without being persecuted. This is a free country. It's not a communist dictatorship. Yeah, as you can see, I feel strongly about the First Amendment. And so this is one of the platforms that I'm running with in 2020 elections. So you know what you're voting for when you vote for me. You know what you're voting for. So look for my name, Heerak, because I am running as an independent, so you can find my name in November 3rd ballot. I hope that your family and you will be well, and that you will survive COVID-19 that is killing 2,000 Americans every day right now.